Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Today's video is going to show you that we were correct in showing exactly where the sniper who took out the shooter was. It wasn't on some far distant barn. I mean, there's videos out there with millions of views literally putting out false information, not even mentioning the fact that there were snipers on the south barn, which we've been saying since very early on in the case. They also confirmed that there were only 8 shots by the shooter, and I think there's 10 total shots, and 2 of them were from snipers, 1 that missed. Okay, so we're going to go over that portion of it. Now, who we're listening to first here is Acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe Jr., and then later a timeline is given by FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate. But let's take a look at this portion right now, and we get to see these really incredible new photographs that were taken, and you can hear the frustration in Ronald Rowe's voice about why the shooter wasn't taken out earlier by somebody in the local police force, because he was completely visible from the sniper positions inside that second floor window.
Our Pittsburgh field office did the advance. During that advance, not only were they discussing amongst themselves about mitigating the line of sight, but also they were discussing with other agencies that were supporting it. Our counter snipers met with their counterparts. The team lead and team lead met. They walked the site. They identified the AGR building. And if I may, Senator, if I could point out something right now, if I may, and we will place this for the record, but this is the point of view. This is from the second floor of the AGR building. This point of view is the point of view where the counter sniper team locally was posted. The gold arrow indicates where the shooter fired from. Looking left, why was the assailant not seen? When we were told that building was going to be covered, that there had been a face-to-face that afternoon, that our team leads met, this was the view.
So right now he's kind of throwing the local police under the bus, saying that they told him it was going to be covered. Now, that might be true, but it's still the Secret Service is running the show. They have to make sure that everything is being taken care of, not just assume something was going to happen.
Let me show you another view, Senator. B.
Wow, getting kind of heated. That was my voice live when we were showing it on my other channel called Red, Gray, Blue. You can find that on YouTube. It's also just one word, Red, Gray, Blue. You can find it by Red, Gray, Blue 1, the number 1, on YouTube.
This view is a reenactment by one of my agents. Laying flat. There is a 5-inch rise on the middle of that roof. The assailant would have had to present his bore over that to get his shot off.
You know, I don't really know if he was like that. We've seen the images where he's laying further away from the gun, but I guess, you know, at some point he does have to raise his head up so that the rifle itself can be over the 5-inch rise, and he can see over it. You know, so his head does have to raise up. I don't know if it has to be as high as he's showing it there, because it looked to me like he kind of stayed down low, and perhaps that's why he was even using the red dot. Perhaps you can look at that from a lower position. I don't know. That's just a guess that I'm making right now.
The view underneath reflects the perspective that he would have had. Again, I call your attention back to the first exhibit, if they'd have looked left. Give me C. This is what our counter sniper team saw. Shooter, no elbows. You barely make out the crown of his head. Below it, the assailant up prone. And let me just tell you, our counter sniper, this individual, I know him. I consider him a friend. He has covered me operationally in conflict zones. And when I did my time on the President's detail, he exemplifies the courage, the skill, in the ability to respond under great stress in such short time to neutralize a threat and prevent further loss of life. Getting back to your question, Senator, these were discussions that were had between the Pittsburgh field office, the local counterparts, and everyone supporting that visit that day. And that's why when I laid in that position, I could not, and I will not, and I cannot understand why there was not better coverage, or at least somebody looking at that roof line when that's where they were posted.
You know, so I'm going to be showing again the @real DJ Stu 724's footage. I got to check, go over and subscribe to that account. He's been putting out videos because he was there. But look at this. So let's take a look at this again, right? So during a live stream the other day, I was wondering if we could see the shooter on the roof just before the shooting, and there's something that looks very similar to this right here. I mean, obviously the shooter had some hair on his head. So let's go back to that portion right here. All right, here we go.
I don't know what's going on.
See, look at that. See, that's what's strange is I remember pausing on here and telling everybody, God, could that be it? It also could be a pipe that's up there, but it is in the general area of where he would have been on the roof. It's hard to tell because we can't really see the angle of the ribs on the roof here. He might possibly be that he's supposed to be over in this area here, but I mean, it does look like a skin tone right there. Now, is that him? We don't know. See, that was 1, 2, 3, right? Now watch. There's actually 6 more shots, but one is a little after the next 5. Listen. Hear that? That had a different sound. I think that's the one that missed and it hit the metal of the roof. Then about 6 seconds later, that's the shot that took out the shooter. Now, to prove to you where the shooter was that took him out, it's actually, you know, if you go back here, look at this. In this image here, they give us a hint. All right, so let's go back. I think just this one right here. Now notice these tents are right there, aligned up, and there's the angle and the shot in. They're mimicking the angle that the shooter had. So if we go to Google Earth and you come down to this position, I'm struggling a little bit. I just had surgery on my right index finger, so I can't do stuff as quickly as I normally do. But right here, see, there's the angle, and those are the tents right there that you see in that image, and the shot was from this roof to the shooter on the roof over here. See, boom, they had an angle. As we have been telling everybody since the beginning, these snipers here were blocked by the tree, and they also mentioned that in this hearing, and the actual shooters were from this barn, and they shot back in that direction. And I believe it's even possible, I think they were facing the other direction, turned around and fired it within 16 seconds of the first shot. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. To turn around, see a small little target like that and take it out. Unbelievable. I think he saved multiple lives because there was extra bullets that probably would have been fired out at the stands. But there you go. That's the proof that the shot was taken from the barn. Right? There are the 3 tents, and you know, all you can see is 3 tents there. And that's the small little target way over there that was taken out. So here is Paul Abate, Deputy Director of the FBI. He's going to give us a timeline right now.
Experts have analyzed the 3 IEDs recovered, 2 from the shooter's vehicle, 1 from the family residence.
Okay, yeah.
And our behavioral analysis unit, importantly, is helping to build a profile of the shooter to include his mental state. Next, I want to provide a brief highlighted overview of the timeline that has been established to date through witness interviews and other information. Again, this is our understanding at present and is subject to change and further refinement as more facts are collected. On July 3rd, the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania was announced. On July 6th, the shooter registered to attend the rally and performed a search for, quote, how far was Oswald from Kennedy. On July 7th, the shooter traveled from his home to the Butler Farm Show grounds and remained there for approximately 20 minutes. We assess this shows advanced planning and reconnaissance on his part. On July 12th, the shooter traveled from his home to the Clairton Sportsman Club, where he practiced shooting. On the morning of July 13th, at approximately 10 a.m., the shooter returned to the farm show grounds and remained there for about 70 minutes before returning home again. At approximately 1:30 p.m., while at the residence, the shooter's father gave him a rifle for the purpose he believed of going back to the Sportsman Club.
See, that part's interesting right there. We thought that was earlier. So 1:30, he was given the rifle. So what made him so nervous earlier, even before the shooting, about his son? It makes you wonder if the parents had knowledge of some sort of behavioral problem because they were so concerned to call police looking for him after he disappeared. When he apparently was supposed to go shooting, but he doesn't show up at a certain time, and they panic really fast. See, that must mean they knew who he was. And, then later, probably after the shooting, it sounds like they contacted law enforcement twice. And after the shooting, they were probably wondering if that was their kid who did the shooting. And obviously then they had probably some information that they knew of their son. This is just speculation, that he's felt a certain way about probably Trump in particular, I would imagine. And that's why they were so concerned. You wouldn't be that concerned if you had a 20-year-old kid, you give him a gun to go to the range, and all of a sudden he's an hour or two late, and you're like, oh my God, and then you start calling the cops. That doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, so let's get back to this.
About 25 minutes later, the shooter purchased ammunition while en route to the Butler Farm Show grounds. The subject then arrived at the scene, was moving around the farm show grounds close to the American Glass Research AGR building, from which he ultimately committed the attack. Shortly thereafter, at approximately 3:51 p.m., the shooter flew a drone approximately 200 yards from the farm show grounds for about 11 minutes.
See, that part really bugs me a lot. I mean, you would think, man, that's a little bit weird. Somebody's flying a drone right next to a rally, but apparently lots of people fly drones around rallies. It's not illegal. But couldn't people use drones for attacks? And that is a possibility. I think when there's a rally like this, it's probably safer just to not allow any kind of drone flying on or around the area, at least within the hour that the president's going to be, or the person of interest that they're protecting, before they're going to be speaking, right? Like, so during that time, don't allow it unless it's sort of like something that's been paid for, or you have a permit to be flying during that time for newsworthy content. But if you're just kind of randomly flying around, maybe they shouldn't allow you to be flying right during the speech.
The drone and controller were later found in the subject's car. Analysis has not revealed any photos or video taken by the drone, but we can confirm that he was live streaming at the time and would have been able to view it on his controller.
Yeah. So when he says live streaming, that's not really how you really word it. He's just looking at his controller, watching and seeing what the drone's seeing. So I guess, quote, technically you're live streaming to yourself, but when people use the word live streaming, it makes it sound like it's online and it's like on YouTube and you're able to watch it. He's just using the drone like everybody else uses a drone, and either using his phone or his controller that has a screen on it to view what he's looking at so he can make decisions. And we heard from Christopher Ray that it was about 200 yards from the stage, and if you watch my show, I have an arc out here. That's 200 yards, that arc right there, from the stage. So he probably flew his drone in this parking lot right back here above, and just got a good sight of where his target was going to be and how he could avoid the snipers seeing him. So he probably was aware that the snipers on the southern tower over here were actually facing the other direction, so felt safe about it and had a blocked view from these snipers. So he knew that he would have time. This guy over here, this sniper, was just amazing and turned around, focused, and fired and took him out.
The first reported sighting of the shooter by local law enforcement was at approximately 4:26 p.m. At approximately 5:10 p.m., the shooter was again identified by local law enforcement as a suspicious person around the AGR building. And at approximately 5:14 p.m., a local SWAT operator took a photo of the shooter. At about 5:32 p.m., local SWAT observed the shooter next to the AGR building, using his phone, browsing news sites, and with a rangefinder. At approximately 5:38 p.m., the photo of the shooter taken earlier was sent to local SWAT operators in a text message group. Subsequently, approximately 25 minutes prior to the shooting, the U.S. Secret Service command post was notified of a suspicious person. Officers lost sight of the subject from approximately 6:02 p.m. to 6:08 p.m., but continued to communicate with each other in an attempt to locate him. Recently discovered video from a local business shows the shooter pulling himself up onto the AGR building rooftop at approximately 6:06 p.m.
So wouldn't it be great right there to have the actual location of where that business was? So when you look at the aerial again, there wouldn't really be any businesses over here that could film anything on this side, right? Everything's kind of blocked. But over on this side, is this building here considered a different business separated from this one? And in that case, he could film in this direction. Now, there's somebody out there online that suggested that the shooter climbed up on this and then on top of this little miniature shed here and got onto the roof and went around and made his way over here. That actually would make sense given, if that's the building here that had a camera that filmed. Now, maybe there's something else, but I really can't see another building that would have any sort of line of sight because there's so many trees around. So I think if this is a separate building, that this has got to be where the camera was located. But why is it just newly discovered if that's the case? Wouldn't this have just been an obvious place to look for a camera? I don't know. Let's go back to the video and finish it. Oh, yeah, I guess there's one more thing I wanted to say about the drone. I mean, to me, it's incredible that nobody noticed the drone flying around in the Secret Service or law enforcement. This seems to be information that was gained after analyzing his cell phone or the drone or the controller of the drone, which stores data. So I have no idea why somebody in law enforcement didn't already notice that, because if you combine the drone with a rangefinder, I think that would have put him into the threat category right out of the get-go as soon as he pulled out that rangefinder, because now you've got two modes of visual sort of surveillance that this one individual's doing. You could argue that when he was using the rangefinder, he was just using it as binoculars or something like that. But when you combine the two together, a drone and then the rangefinder, I think that throws you into the threat category. It might not be like shoot to kill at that point. However, it might be where you're in a level where they need to find you immediately. So there needs to be something done with those types of individuals that are, when you start combining that type of circumstantial evidence together, there should be something done more immediately to remove the threat from the scene. Maybe you don't have to take them out because at that point they don't have anything lethal on them, but you definitely have to then consider them a potential threat at least, and maybe there's a different category there where you can confront them, see what they're doing there, and make decisions. And it might even mean that you can remove them from the area because you consider them a threat. So let's continue with the remaining portion of the timeline.
And at approximately 6:08 p.m., the subject was observed on the roof by local law enforcement. At approximately 6:11 p.m., a local police officer was lifted to the roof by another officer, saw the shooter, and radioed that he was armed with, quote, a long gun. Within approximately the next 30 seconds, the shots were fired. The evidence recovery team found 8 shell casings at the scene next to the shooter's body. We believe that the shooter, fired 8 rounds. While the investigation has not determined motive, the investigative team continues to review information from legal returns, including online and social media accounts. Something just very recently uncovered that I want to share is a social media account which is believed to be associated with the shooter in about the 2019-2020 timeframe. There were over 700 comments posted from this account. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes, to espouse political violence, and are described as extreme in nature. While the investigative team is still working to verify this account to determine if it did in fact belong to the shooter, we believe it important to share and note it today, particularly given the general absence of other information to date from social media and other sources of information that reflect on the shooter's potential motive and mindset. These are the facts, in part, that the investigation has revealed to date. While the shooter is dead, our work is very much ongoing and urgent. Thank you, and I look forward to answering any and all questions.
So that was pretty interesting. listening to the timeline there. I mean, it's just frustrating to listen to. I mean, they see him on the roof at 6:08. So where were those snipers in the windows behind, right? So you're looking at the scene here, and remember, in these windows right here, there were snipers right inside there. Apparently, that's where they were supposed to be. So did one of them leave? They did mention something that it's possible that one of these snipers left to go look for the guy, but had they stayed right there, they'd be able to see him easily. As you remember that photograph that we showed earlier, where you can have just an absolutely simple line of sight, especially him up so high on the roof right there. I mean, just look at it like that. From one of these windows, you can look out, and there he is. And that didn't happen. So, you know, a lot of frustrating moments here. It does seem like their communication was terrible, and that there was supposed to be somebody on that roof, and they weren't. And that likely is the single most important element of this case, is why there wasn't somebody on that roof. And because they would have stopped the whole thing. And obviously, he should have been neutralized earlier, because apparently it seems like they were aware of the gun. It might have even been as late as 5 seconds before the first shot, but shouldn't have been like the guy that's yelling gun, gun. Just quickly you get on to comms to go gun, 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 and then the Secret Service hears that right away, and they rush the stage and they tackle the president, and he doesn't get harmed or even a shot near him at all. Okay, so this is just absolutely ridiculous, but at least we got some more answers today. And I hope you guys appreciate the video here. I think we're starting to put all the pieces together now, and it's starting to develop a full picture of what the hell happened. But I think coming up soon, there's going to probably be this really long breakdown of exactly what happened of the breakdown in security. Okay, so thank you all very much for watching. If you could please share the video, I'd appreciate it. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.